Welcome back to Tender Codes. Today we're going to take a look at how we can use Golang to check if an Ethereum address is valid. We're also going to take it a step further and see if an address represents an account or a smart contract. So with that being said, let's jump straight into it. Let's go ahead and start with the main.go file that we have created in the previous video. We'll need the same imports, that's the context, and we'll also need fmt to output to console. And then let's also grab the log to output our fatal errors. And then we're also going to need regexp or regular expression. We're also going to grab the Go Ethereum common and the Go Ethereum ETH client dependencies. And again, make sure you are doing go get followed by the dependencies coming from GitHub, so those are available for you to use. Let's start out by using the regular expression library that we imported and say must compile, and then we're going to pass it the expression that we want it to compare against, and then you want to make sure it's camel case must compile. Let's store the return value in a variable called regular expression. This regular expression is checking for a string that starts with a 0x and that contains numeric values from 0 to 9 and letters that are capital or lowercase from A through F. And it's also making sure that the character length is only 40 after the 0x. Perfect, so we have that regular expression stored in that variable. So let's test it out. So let's do fmt.println. And then what we're gonna do is say, this is a valid address. And let's do a regular expression dot, and then let's do match string. And then let's pass in an address. So this is an instance where we do pass a valid address, and let's do another case where it's an invalid address. And let's change this A to a Z, and then let's change this A or these two A's to like R and T maybe. So obviously invalid address, and then we're actually gonna get an error, so let's comment that out. And we're also gonna comment this out for now. So let's go ahead and say go run main go, and then it's gonna say this is a valid address, and it's gonna return a boolean. So perfect. Now that we have a basic address validity check, let's go ahead and take it a step further and check if this address represents a smart contract or a wallet. So let's go ahead and uncomment the common as well as the ETH client. We're also going to need the context and the log. So just like we did in the previous videos, let's establish a connection to the Ethereum client. We're going to use the inferior endpoint that is provided to us. So we're going to use the ETH client that we import on line 10 and just say ETH client.dial, if you remember from previous videos, and provide it with an inferior URL. I'm just going to connect to mainnet and give that endpoint and make sure it's in quotations. Perfect. And it's complaining because we're not using it. So let's go ahead and check if there was an error encountered. If error does not equal nil, and let's do log.fatal and say Alright, so after we verified that we've successfully connected to an Ethereum node, let's go ahead and do some conversions using the common library, say common.hex to address. And we're going to pass in quotations, the Ethereum address that we want to check if it's a smart contract or a wallet. And let's store that in a variable and call it address. Alrighty, so after we've done that, let's go ahead and check if there is code that exists at this address. We can do that by using the code at functionality that the client provides us with. So we say client.codeat and then pass in context. So we'll say context.background, and then we'll pass in the address that we want to check if there's code deployed to, and the last parameter is the block number. We'll just do nil, which will just return the latest block. This will again return two possible values. One is a bytecode if it's successful, and the second one is an error if there's an error encountered. And again, we'll do the error check, say if error does not equal nil, and we'll say log.fatal and pass in unable to check if there is code add, and then address as well as the error. Perfect. So after we've checked if there's any errors in that operation, so let's go ahead and check the length of the bytecode, because if the length of the bytecode is greater than 0, that means there's a smart contract deployed at that address. So let's go ahead and declare a new variable and say is contract, and set it equal to the check that we're going to do to say length bytecode and greater than 0. And then we're just going to do a print statement, say print line, and we'll say address is contract, and then we'll just return the boolean here we just set is contract and print it out. So let's go ahead and run this. So this should return false because that address right here that we provided is a wallet address. So let's go ahead and run it, and you'll see that this address is not a contract. We can similarly change the address so it's a representation of a smart contract. I just went ahead and grabbed the smart contract of Uniswap, and you'll see that this address is a contract is going to result to true. So that was a neat way to check if your addresses are valid, and then take it a step further and see if they represent a wallet or a smart contract. Thank you much for tuning in. Again, if this video was helpful or you learned something new today, make sure you give it a like, comment any thoughts that you may have, and make sure you subscribe and click on that notification bell so you are notified every time I drop a new video. I will see you in the next one.